Clearing the clutter is not just about cleaning your space. It's about reclaiming your mind, your time, and your peace. Every object, thought, or task you keep around you carries energy. When your environment is filled with unnecessary things, unfinished projects, digital distractions, or emotional baggage, it begins to weigh you down. It creates noise in the background of your life, dulling your focus and draining your motivation. The act of clearing the clutter is an act of liberation, a decision to take control of what you allow to occupy your space and your thoughts. It's the first and most essential step in any reset, because you cannot build something new on top of chaos. You must first clear the ground, make room, and prepare the foundation for change. Begin by looking around you, your room, your workspace, your home. Ask yourself what each item means to you. Does it serve a purpose? Does it bring you joy? Or is it simply there because you haven't taken the time to let it go? Letting go can be uncomfortable because every item represents a choice, a memory, or an attachment. But that discomfort is temporary, while the clarity that follows is lasting. When you release the things that no longer serve you, you make space for the things that truly do. You begin to notice how much lighter you feel, how much more clearly you can think, and how easily you can focus on what matters most. Clutter is not only physical. It exists in your digital world and in your mind. Your phone, for example, can be a major source of mental clutter. Endless notifications, unused apps, constant scrolling that fills your head with noise and comparison. Spend a few minutes cleaning your digital space. Unsubscribe from the emails you never read. Delete the apps that drain your time. Organize your files, clear your inbox, and create a clean, intentional digital environment that supports your goals instead of distracting from them. The mental relief that comes from this small act of order is remarkable. It sends a message to your brain that you are in control of your life, not the other way around. Then, turn inward. The most persistent clutter often lives inside your own mind. Old beliefs, self-doubt, regret, fear, and unfinished decisions. These are the invisible piles that take up space in your heart and prevent you from moving forward. Clearing this kind of clutter takes awareness and courage. It means facing your thoughts honestly, forgiving yourself for what's behind you, and deciding to move on from the stories that no longer serve who you're becoming. Write them down if you must. Acknowledge them, and then release them. You are not defined by what you hold on to, but by what you choose to let go of. When you clear your physical, digital, and mental space, something powerful happens. You create stillness. In that stillness, ideas begin to flow, motivation returns, and energy rises. You start to see your goals more clearly, not because they suddenly appeared, but because you finally removed the fog that was hiding them. Movement is one of the most powerful ways to reconnect with yourself. The body and the mind are deeply linked. When one is stagnant, the other follows. When you move your body, even in the simplest ways, you awaken parts of yourself that may have been dormant. You remind yourself that you are alive, capable, and strong. Movement is not about perfection or appearance, it's about energy. It's about honoring the incredible machine that carries you through life every single day. Whether it's a morning walk, a few stretches between tasks, or a full workout that challenges your limits, every motion you make sends a message to your mind that you are taking control, that you are choosing vitality over inertia. When you start to move with intention, your body begins to respond in remarkable ways. Muscles that once felt tight begin to loosen, your breathing deepens, and your heart rate rises with purpose. This isn't just a physical change, it's emotional and mental renewal. As you move, your body releases endorphins, natural chemicals that elevate your mood and reduce stress. You feel lighter, not only because you're burning calories or improving strength, but because you're releasing the tension that's been stored within you. Each movement becomes a small declaration of freedom from stress, doubt, and fatigue. You are giving your body permission to express itself, to release energy that was never meant to be contained. Movement also builds discipline. When you choose to move your body consistently, You begin to develop trust in yourself. It teaches you that action, no matter how small, has the power to change everything. You may not always feel motivated, but the act of moving itself creates momentum. That's the secret most people forget. Motivation doesn't always come before action. Often, it's the result of it. The first few minutes of a walk or a workout might feel difficult, but once you start, you realize how capable you truly are. And each time you push yourself a little further, you strengthen not just your body, but your willpower. You remind yourself that you can do hard things, and that confidence carries into every part of your life. Movement is also a form of mindfulness. When you're fully present in your body, when you feel your heartbeat, your breath, and the rhythm of your steps, you enter a state of flow. You're not thinking about the past or worrying about the future. You're simply being. This awareness grounds you in the moment and helps you reconnect with yourself on a deeper level. You begin to appreciate your body not for how it looks, but for what it allows you to experience, the strength, the endurance, the rhythm of life itself moving through you. Your body was designed to move. It thrives on motion, on flexibility, on strength built through consistent effort. When you move with purpose, you unlock energy you didn't know you had. The fog lifts, your focus sharpens, and your spirit begins to rise along with your heartbeat. What you feed yourself determines how you feel, think, and show up in the world. The body and mind are deeply interconnected, and what you put into one inevitably affects the other. When you fuel yourself with foods that nourish rather than deplete, you give your body the foundation it needs to thrive. Energy, clarity, and emotional balance all begin with what you consume daily. It's not about restriction or punishment, it's about respect. Respect for the vessel that carries you and the life you're trying to build. The moment you begin to see food as fuel rather than comfort, everything starts to change. Each meal becomes a conscious choice, a way of saying, I value my health, my energy, and my goals. Nourishing yourself isn't just about eating more vegetables or cutting out processed foods. It's about tuning in to what your body truly needs. When you eat mindlessly, you disconnect from yourself. You eat out of habit, emotion, or convenience. But when you slow down, when you actually pay attention to how certain foods make you feel, energized or sluggish, focused or foggy, you begin to build awareness. That awareness is powerful because it gives you control. You no longer eat to fill an emotional gap. You eat to strengthen your foundation. You begin to notice that clean, wholesome foods give you lasting energy, while junk food provides only fleeting pleasure, followed by exhaustion. The difference becomes impossible to ignore once you've experienced true nourishment. The same principle applies to what you feed your mind. Energy doesn't just come from calories, it comes from thoughts, conversations, and influences. The content you consume every day, what you read, watch, and listen to, shapes your mental state as much as food shapes your physical one. Negative news, toxic relationships, and endless scrolling drain your mental energy, just like empty calories drain your physical vitality. To truly reset your life, you must filter both kinds of consumption. Replace gossip and complaints with learning and inspiration. Spend time with people who uplift you and challenge you to grow. Choose books, podcasts, and environments that make you think, that remind you of your potential, that align with the person you want to become. Feeding your energy also means creating balance. You can eat the healthiest food in the world, but if you're not resting enough, if you're not managing stress, your energy will still suffer. Listen to your body when it whispers before it has to scream. Hydrate. Breathe deeply. Make meals a ritual rather than a chore. Take a moment to appreciate the nourishment before you, to feel gratitude for the way it sustains you. When you approach food and energy with mindfulness, you stop living on autopilot. You start aligning your actions with intention. You stop surviving and begin thriving. Your body starts to work for you instead of against you, and you realize that feeding your energy is not just an act of health. It's an act of self-respect, a daily commitment to the best version of yourself. Stillness is one of the most powerful yet underestimated sources of strength. In a world that constantly demands motion, noise, and productivity, the idea of slowing down feels almost rebellious. But stillness is not the absence of action. It is the presence of awareness. It is the quiet moment when you stop running from one task to another and allow yourself to simply exist. In stillness, your mind begins to settle, your breathing slows, and the constant chatter that fills your head starts to fade. You begin to hear your own thoughts clearly, the thoughts that get buried under daily noise. You reconnect with yourself, with your purpose, and with what truly matters. When you practice stillness, you give your body and mind the chance to reset. Stress, anxiety, and fatigue often come from constant motion without reflection. You move so quickly that your thoughts never have time to catch up. But when you pause, when you sit quietly and breathe, something profound happens. Your nervous system calms, your heart rate steadies, and clarity begins to emerge. The problems that seemed overwhelming start to feel manageable, not because they disappeared, but because you finally gave yourself space to see them from a new angle. Stillness gives perspective. It turns chaos into understanding and confusion into direction. In these quiet moments, creativity also awakens. Inspiration rarely comes in the middle of chaos. It often appears when the mind is silent and open. The greatest ideas, the most meaningful insights, come not when you're forcing them, but when you allow them to find you. By creating moments of stillness, you invite these ideas to rise to the surface. You make room for intuition, that inner voice that guides you toward the right choices. This voice is always there, but it can't be heard when the noise of the world is louder than your own inner knowing. Stillness doesn't have to mean sitting perfectly still in meditation, though that can be powerful. It can be a slow walk without your phone, a few deep breaths before a meeting, or 5 quiet minutes at the start or end of your day. It's about presence, being fully aware of where you are and what you're feeling. When you bring stillness into your routine, you begin to respond to life rather than react to it. You stop letting emotions control you and start mastering them. You begin to understand that calm is not a destination, but a practice, one you return to again and again until it becomes part of who you are. In stillness, you realize that your worth isn't tied to how much you do or achieve. It's found in your ability to simply be. You remember that peace is not something to chase. It's something to uncover. It has always been there, waiting beneath the layers of busyness and distraction. When you allow yourself to stop and breathe, you give that peace a chance to rise to the surface and guide you forward. Passion is the spark that turns ordinary days into extraordinary experiences. It is the energy that fuels creativity, drives perseverance, and gives meaning to your actions. When you reignite your passion, you reconnect with the part of yourself that feels alive, curious, and inspired. Life often has a way of dimming that fire. Responsibilities pile up, routines take over, and the things that once filled you with excitement begin to fade into the background. But passion never truly disappears. It only waits for you to notice it again. It waits for you to create the space and courage to feel deeply, to dream boldly, and to do what sets your soul alight. Reigniting your passion starts with remembering what once made you feel alive. It might be something you used to love, but set aside for practicality's sake. It might be a new interest that's been quietly calling to you. The key is to follow curiosity. Passion often hides behind small sparks of interest, those moments when something catches your attention and you feel a quiet pull toward it. Listen to that pull. Explore it without judgment, without worrying whether it will lead to success or approval. Passion thrives in freedom, not in pressure. The more you allow yourself to play, to experiment, to try things simply for the joy of them, the easier it becomes to rediscover that sense of flow and fulfillment. Passion also requires courage because it demands authenticity. To live passionately means to live honestly, to express what truly matters to you, even if it doesn't align with what others expect. It means giving yourself permission to choose meaning over comfort. Passion asks you to take risks, to step into the unknown, to create instead of consume. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. When you act from passion, your energy becomes contagious. People around you can feel it. You inspire others simply by being fully engaged in what you love. You remind them that joy and purpose are still possible. Passion doesn't have to be grand or dramatic. It can be quiet and steady. It can live in the way you cook a meal, care for someone, write, teach, build, or learn. It's not limited to hobbies or careers. It's a way of showing up for life with enthusiasm and intention. When you pour passion into even the smallest things, you transform ordinary moments into meaningful ones. Every action becomes a reflection of who you are and what you stand for. Passion turns effort into expression and work into purpose. To reignite your passion, you must be willing to slow down enough to feel again. You must silence the voice that says you don't have time, that it's too late, or that your dreams are unrealistic. Passion is not about having time. It's about making space. It's about choosing to prioritize what fills your spirit. When you do, life begins to expand. Energy flows more freely. Joy becomes more accessible. You remember what it means to live fully rather than merely exist. Committing to continuous growth means making a promise to yourself that no matter where you are in life, you will keep evolving. It is about understanding that growth is not a destination, but a mindset, a constant process of learning, adapting, and becoming. The most powerful transformations happen when you decide that progress matters more than perfection. Each day offers a new opportunity to take one step forward, to learn something new, to build a habit that brings you closer to your highest potential. Growth begins the moment you stop making excuses and start taking responsibility for who you are and who you want to become. Committing to your future self requires honesty. It demands that you look at where you are now without denial or judgment and acknowledge the gap between your current reality and your vision. That gap isn't a source of shame. It's your map for improvement. Once you see it clearly, you can begin to bridge it through deliberate action. Growth is rarely comfortable because it requires letting go of old patterns, outdated beliefs, and familiar habits that no longer serve you. But discomfort is the sign that change is happening. Every time you step outside your comfort zone, you expand your capacity. You build resilience, and resilience becomes the foundation for everything else you achieve. Continuous growth also means embracing failure as part of the journey. Too many people let fear of failure keep them stuck, repeating the same patterns because they're afraid to fall short. But failure is not the opposite of success. It's the process that leads to it. Every mistake carries a lesson, every setback builds character, and every disappointment shapes wisdom. The moment you stop seeing failure as something to avoid and start seeing it as feedback, your perspective shifts. You begin to take more chances, dream bigger, and act with greater confidence. You stop asking, "What if I fail?" and start asking, "What will I learn?" Growth is not just about achieving goals. It's about becoming the kind of person who can achieve them. It's about building habits of consistency, discipline, and curiosity. Reading, reflecting, seeking feedback, and surrounding yourself with people who challenge and inspire you are all acts of growth. When you choose environments that push you forward instead of holding you back, your potential expands naturally. You begin to absorb the energy and mindset of growth-minded people, and that influence shapes your future in ways you might not even realize. Committing to the future you also means staying patient. Real change takes time, and growth often happens quietly, beneath the surface, before it becomes visible. There will be days when progress feels invisible and moments when you want to give up, but consistency compounds. Every small action, every bit of effort, builds upon the last until momentum takes over. You won't always notice it day by day, but one morning you'll wake up and realize you've become stronger, wiser, and more aligned with the life you envisioned. Growth rewards those who stay committed long after motivation fades, because true transformation is built not in bursts of inspiration, but in the steady rhythm of persistence.